Bet with your friends on WynnBET Sportsbook today using promo code BlueWire to get up to $1,000 toward a risk-free sports bet. Sign up now at WYNNBet.com. Offer subject to change, terms and conditions at WynnBET.com. Must be 21 or older and present in the state where playthrough WynnBET is available. If you or someone you know has a gambling problem, call 1-800-522-4700.
Chase Thomas the Chase Thomas podcast. My nephew needs me to record. See, I already hate it. I hate it.
All right, hello, and welcome back to another episode of the Chase Thomas podcast, where I am still the aforementioned Chase Thomas, taping this on a Tuesday afternoon. David Vertsberger of SNY is here. Verts, what's going on, man?
Basketball's back. Exciting times.
Mm-hmm.
I can't wait to tune into the season opener. I got a couple good matchups, and then my Knicks open on Wednesday. It's gonna be a fun year.
It's going to be a fun year. Herter got his extension, so Atlanta kept up their prioritizing of young players, young capable players, to very team-friendly deals and very non-player-friendly deals, where Herter, Ozzy Albies, Acuna, just I felt weird about it, where I'm like, oh, he deserved way more than that, and I'm not going to say anything yet. 465, it's good. I'm happy. Kevin Herter's an important piece to a number one seed this season in the East. Something that your New York Knicks cannot relate to, will not be able to relate to as the season goes along. But we're excited. It's gonna be a good week. What are you more excited about tonight? Which game are you more interested in watching and taking some notes on?
Oh man, that's tough. I didn't expect that one. Nets Bucks, man. I think that has a chance of being a real rivalry in the East. I guess you can say the same about Lakers Warriors, especially with the many clashes LeBron and Curry have had. But they're more on the older side compared to Durant and Giannis. And I don't know. I think that one's a little more up for grabs. I think right now the Lakers are probably the much better team than the Warriors. But we'll see. It could be wrong come the end of the year.
Yeah, I don't know. The Warriors are just such a huge wild card, and I'm pretty low on the Lakers coming into the year. I'm not a Yankees. We were talking about the Yankees. I'm not a. I guess there are a lot of crossovers between Yankees and Lakers fans,
the basketball equivalent.
Yeah, exactly. I'm just not a Lakers believer whatsoever. I think it was it. I did not like really anything they did this offseason. I'm not a Westbrook believer in how this will work. They can stagger Westbrook and LeBron all they want with AD. Not going to make me a believer. But we'll see. That's why I'm interested to see what it looks like tonight against Golden State. I think it'll be fun. And I want to see Steph Curry and Jordan Poole together. Like, I want to see them as a backcourt team and see how that works and see how it works defensively. And I don't know, see if the Jordan Poole stuff is for real, because we'll talk about Poole in a little bit, but a lot of extensions. This is the headline going into the season opener. I think just a bunch of NBA extensions got done. Like I mentioned, Kevin Herter got done, but I think the two that's most interesting to me, and the second part of this one leads into an Ayton question, but the Grizzlies extended Jaren Jackson. I like Jaren Jackson a lot. I don't know where you stand on him and what he can still be. But I love that deal. And then you have the Suns, who I want to combine these two because they agreed to a 4-year, $43 million extension with Landry Shamet, which I thought was interesting. And like I said, with Jackson, he got for $105. I thought that was a pretty good deal, and getting him locked in, betting on his upside. But you do that. You don't offer DeAndre Ayton the max, and he reportedly met with the owner, Robert Sarver, all that. And then James Jones, what does he do? Not him either. He gives, like I said, the extension to Shamet, but he also gave an extension to Mikal Bridges to a deal. Like, a lot of people are in on Mikal Bridges. A lot of people think that there's another level that he can get to and that he's not just going to be a 3-and-D guy, that he has playmaking in him. I am not one of those people, but I'm willing to be wrong there. I like Mikal Bridges. I don't love Mikal Bridges, but he gets a 4-year, $90 million rookie contract extension. So, with all that being said, what do you make of those two organizations betting on certain young guys, but some guys getting left out, like DeAndre Ayton, and what that could do for the chemistry, what that could do for the locker room, as the Suns try and get back into the NBA Finals. And then with the Grizzlies, like, they're taking a huge gamble on Jackson staying healthy and being one of the core pieces with Ja Morant that can get them back into the like at least in the top 4, top 5-ish contention window in the West for years to come.
Yeah, it's funny because on the outline you mentioned Jackson and Mikhail's extensions, and right next to Mikhail on my notes I just put Ayton in all caps because we just have to discuss him. But I guess we'll start with the Grizzlies and Jackson. You know, I really like him. I think as a modern big, he's got everything you want, and fully realized it's just a crazy package you can put together. Can score inside and out, defend really well. I don't know how he makes all these threes. When you look at his form, it's the most ridiculous thing anyone's ever seen, but it goes in, so you can't beat it. And I think when you sort of compare him to a lot of the other young guys Memphis has, and they're deep with a lot of young guys they're going to have to eventually extend. I think we talked about this on one of our previous pods together. But, you know, it gets expensive when you start, all right, extension 1, extension 2, extension 3. Luckily, your Hawks are doing it cheaply, but, you know, someone of Jackson's caliber isn't going to be so cheap. So I like that they chose him above, you know, some of these other guys. I think he has the most all-star potential. I think he can end up being, you know, an all-defense type of guy, as well as someone that can still score in a multitude of ways, play both big positions. And, you know, he's had a couple of years now, albeit injury-plagued with Morant, so you sort of want to build on the chemistry those two are forming together. The more interesting question, obviously, we're going to Phoenix. The Shamet one is puzzling, but it's not overly expensive, so okay. The Mikal Bridges one was interesting because you're sort of betting that he becomes more than a 3-and-D guy, because if you're paying, you know, what was it, $22 million for a 3-and-D guy, it seems a bit aggressive. And I like Mikal Bridges. I think defensively, I think he needs to get just a little bigger. I think he got pushed around a little bit in the playoffs. The 3-point shooting is good. I believe in some of his mid-range stuff, some of his floater stuff. You know, his playmaking, you see signs of it. It's a big bet, to say the least. I think that's just how I would frame it, you know. Whether they're right or wrong, I think it's kind of hard to just to throw it out there now. You know, we're not seeing what's going on in practice. We haven't seen what kind of improvements he's made this past offseason, but he was a big contributor to a contending team, you know, a couple wins away from the finals, from the championship. So it's definitely a bet. We'll see how it shakes out. The Ayton question is so puzzling. I guess the real situation with the Ayton thing is, if you're not offering him the max, 20 other teams are doing it, right?
This is tough because it depends on what you think of Ayton, because we saw two different players thus far in his NBA career, right? Like, we saw the first year where it was empty calories, the Carlos Boozer special. He didn't like contact. He wasn't the kind of rim protector you want. He was not getting fouled, not rebounding at an elite level. He loved those elbow jumpers, those elbow mid-range jumpers. Like, that was his thing. And it wasn't just conducive to winning in Phoenix. And then last year, he transitions into a fantastic rim protector, a rim running guy, great chemistry with Chris Paul in this group, doesn't take anything besides shots at the rim and lobs, and it's more effective, it's more efficient. I don't give the max to Clint Capella. Like, I'm not doing that. But if you think he has another level and you can add with what he's learned now that's winning basketball, but also give him other responsibilities and give him post-ups where it's just not a net negative in your half-court offense, then I understand giving him the max. I understand that line of thinking, but there might be some conversations internally of just like, what if Ayton is not that guy? What if Ayton cannot be a Joel Embiid? And it's like, well, that's a high price to pay, but it's like, well, no, that's why you draft him number one, is like, you pay him the max. If you believe that he can be an Anthony Davis, Karl Anthony Towns, Joel Embiid, one of the premier centers in this league, then yeah, you give him the max. But if he's not that kind of offensive guy who can shoulder the load and ISO on his own, and you can just throw the ball inside and he can draw fouls and this, that, and the other, while also being an elite rim protector. I don't know. I think this tells me that they are not sure about that. This tells me that Phoenix is not certain that he is not, he's just not that guy. Like, is he going to shoot threes? Is he going to do the other stuff? Like, I don't know. I think this tells me that they're dubious about that development, and I wouldn't blame them based on what we've seen. But he's still a valuable player. I just don't think we haven't seen enough that he's a max valuable guy. But you see around the league and you see Mikal get paid, but I'm like, I know what Mikal is. Like, I know that his value, and if you bet right on him, is more important than betting right on Ayton. But I don't know. I don't know what this does to the chemistry. I don't know how this changes the locker room. This is a bold move for a team that just went to the NBA Finals.
Yeah. Assuming Ayton's defense is on just a sort of steady upwards projected trajectory, which I think is fair to assume. He was really solid during the regular season, really solid during the playoffs. It was just, he couldn't handle Giannis, which is just, okay, like, sorry, you can't handle Giannis. But, I think what's left with him is that sort of one-on-one offense stuff you're talking about. Not even one-on-one, just sort of multi-dimensional. Can the jump shot be consistent? Can he
fouled a bunch?
Catch him sort of, yeah. Yeah, can he sort of finish from different spots? Can he get a better post-up game? I think that's sort of important. You're going to have switches on him. Can he do a nice power dribble into a drop hook? Can he do those things? I think that's going to decide it. It's curious in the light of the Mikal Bridges extension, because like I saw that and I'm thinking, if you're throwing that at Bridges, you have to throw the max at Payton, right? You're making a big bet on Bridges. You make a big bet on Payton, on Ayton, unless you're not a believer. Which I don't know. I mean, how does this play out now, right? So let's assume it doesn't hurt the chemistry too much. Let's assume he's a professional. He'll ball out. Phoenix will be really good. He'll look better this year compared to last. Let's assume these things, which is not super outlandish, right? We get to the summer. He's a restricted free agent. I think maybe is it next summer or this summer?
Next summer.
Next summer. Okay. So let's say, he's a restricted free agent next summer. I mean, will they match it then? Do they want to give themselves this sort of 2-year pocket to sort of see how he develops? Are they just going to let him go then? Are they going to trade him next year? I'm curious what this looks like a year from now.
He wanted, but this is the report from Bleacher Report, is that he wanted a Trae Young max contract. Okay. My man, you're not getting the Trae Young contract. What? Like, if that's what he wanted, if that's the kind of money he did want,
between 2 and 3,
you're not Luka and you're not Trae. Like, you're not even in the same ballpark. Like, it's literally not a conversation. It's not a conversation. Sure. So if that's the case and he was not willing to buck about that whole thing, then I get the Suns' perspective, and I get James Jones being like, you're not that guy. Like, but it also will learn a lot about what Ayton is as a player and as a competitor, right? If he uses this as fuel to show that, look, I can do this, and I have another level, and that I can add to my offensive game while also being a defensive anchor on a title team, then show it. Like, do it, and do that other stuff. Do the face-up stuff. Do things off the dribble. Yeah. Shoot corner threes. Like, you've got to do that. And if you're not, no one's going to give you the max, because you can find these kind of centers everywhere. If this is all he is, you can find these guys. There's a lot of rim running centers who fit this mold. You can draft these guys and mold them into that. I would even say that Jaren Jackson has shown more with his upside than DeAndre Ayton at this point. Like, you're not worth more than Jaren Jackson. If I had to bet on who was the better player 5 years from now, I would bet on Jackson. But, I mean, I don't know. We'll see. I think Ayton has a higher ceiling, but I think Jackson is more likely to reach his ceiling based on what we've seen thus far. So, I don't know. I go back and forth on this, but I do understand the Suns doing this. But it's also like, to your point, there's no point in not. Like, you're already locked in with Chris Paul. You're locked in Booker. You're locked in on Bridges. I mean, you're not drafting anyone else that's just, you have to prioritize paying. Like, you're in win now mode. You might as well just give him the money just because you're just like, there's no alternative. It's kind of like if you're the Jazz and this offseason where you were wondering, you're like, do we really want to give Conley, with his injury history and where he's at in his development, do we want Do we want to throw him the money? It's like, well, yeah, you have to. You don't have any other choice. Like, there's no one you can sign that will bring you what Conley does. So even though you're overpaying and you're having to give him more years and stuff like that, and you're nervous about it, you just do it because you're the Jazz and you might be the number 1 seed in the West. There are times to do this kind of thing. And I don't know. I think Ayton, at the very least, has shown he is a winning player and he is someone who can start and be with this core. But I mean, once you have that the Chris Paul contract in the books, I agree with you where it's like, you might as well just ride this out and see what happens, because I don't know how that's going to age. I don't know what that contract's going to look like even after this year. You might as well just do it. But then you're like, well, he's not worth trade money. So if that's what his demands were, that's like all he would accept. And like, I don't know what to tell you, man. You're not Trae Young. You're not leading the Suns by yourself without Devin Booker and Chris Paul just being maybe the best backcourt in the NBA. Like, you're just not. So I don't know. I go back and forth on it.
I do wonder how much of it, because you mentioned James Jones. I wonder how much of it is James Jones versus Robert Sarver. Because I've seen some of that on Twitter. It's all conjecture.
I was going to say, like, we have no idea. Why do we do that? Like, it's just, I don't know. This seems like more of a Sarver thing. It's like, we have no idea. James Jones might not be a believer. You don't know. It could be the opposite, where Sarver's like, why aren't we doing this? And James is like, I don't know.
It does seem kind of like a Sarver thing, but that's fine.
But at the same time, he did pay. Like, he took on and I'm not trying to carry Robert Sarver's water here. But what I am saying is that, I mean, he did pay Booker. He did bring in the Chris Paul contract. Yep. He did just pay Bridges. So my gut tells me that he's not opposed. I don't know. I think this is far more complicated. But Robert Sarver from Woj said that Sarver didn't offer it. But we don't know if Jones went to Sarver and was like, we can't do this. This would be a bad idea. Like, we don't know anything. Like you said, it's just conjecture at this point. But I don't know. I would not personally max out DeAndre Ayton based on what I know after 2 seasons. It's too early. Like, with Trae and Luka, we know what they are. I don't know what DeAndre Ayton is. Nikias Duncan had this today. Basketball News, great NBA writer, so go read him and check out the Dunker Spot if you've not already. But he made his early season predictions, like before, by the end of the season, what the top 3 in each position would be. And he had Trae as the number 2 point guard, passing Damian Lillard now. And he has Luka as the, I think, second best shooting forward behind LeBron, just the way he did his rankings. That's a different stratosphere than DeAndre Ayton. Yeah. He's nowhere near Jokic. He's nowhere near Embiid. He's nowhere near Anthony Davis. Like, Towns. Like, it's just, he's nowhere near these people. So it's just like, to expect that kind of same money with Trae and Luka, who might be second team, first team All-NBA, like, it's not reality. Like, someone needs to sit him down and be like, no, you're Clint Capella right now. If you'd like to prove otherwise, we'd be happy to, because that means we're contending for the next couple of years. But like, show it. Like, expand your offensive game. Give us a reason to feature you a lot more in offensive half court sets. Like, that's what we have to see.
That's fair.
I don't know. We'll see. I'm excited. I'm excited to see what this means for the Suns. Some other extensions. Do you like the Herter extension for Atlanta? You mentioned that we're getting discounts and stuff like that, but this is a pricey team. This is a pricey team with Bogey and Gallo and Capella and now Trae at the max. DeAndre Hunter and Cam Reddish might be getting paid soon. You have a lot of dudes on this roster now, and people need to be aware of this. Is like, there's gonna, like, we're getting so close to the point where the Hawks are going to have to make some very, very difficult decisions. And we're going to learn a lot about what Travis Schlenk sees with this core and how much he values his core versus using these collection of assets to flip for a Bradley Beal or somebody like that, or a Karl Anthony Towns or whoever. Right. Because, I don't know, like, the Hawks, if they keep it all together, they could be the 1 seed with this depth, because I think you can make the case that the Hawks have the most depth of any NBA team this season. Like, there are so many dudes. There are just so many dudes on this roster where you're like, Gorgie Jang, Solomon Hill, and Yucca and Kongwu, when he comes back, Kongwu's going to be great. Like, he might be a star. That guy is going to be a player. Sharif Cooper looks like he's going to contribute right away. Jalen Johnson flashed in Summer League. He looks like a future contributor. You have brought John Collins back. Delon Wright's here. Lou Williams is back. DeAndre Hunter, if he can stay healthy, like you still have Gallo, you still have Capella, like Herter is a dude. Like there's just people all over the place. And Cam, it's such an important year for Cam Reddish, and he's popping up in offseason trade stuff. But I am so curious to see what that looks like with the starters, him getting time with the starters. Because I think they're going to have to pick between Hunter and Reddish at some point this season. I think that's the first thing they have to, the first tough call that that Schlenk and this ownership group is going to have to make. But personally, I hope it's Cam because he has the higher upside and doesn't have the same health questions and he's younger, a lot younger than DeAndre Hunter. And the Hunter's knee stuff scares me. It really, really scares me. And Reddish being 2 years younger, I think that matters. And I think his ceiling's higher. What do you make of their depth and the Herter signing and where they're at cap wise and rotation wise heading into this year?
Man, I was ready to make such a positive Hawks point, and you beat me to it. Yeah, I did an article recently, actually, on the Knicks' depth compared to other teams in the league, and I'm trying to figure out, who has the best benches in the league. And Atlanta's probably number one. Probably number one between Gallo, Lou Will, Kevin Herter. I mean, you also said it. The good thing about these extensions is, especially that you're getting them a nicely priced deal, you can eventually move these guys in a package deal, like you said, for a Beal, for a star. Zion, who knows? Might want to play with a guy like Trae Young. I mean, I like it as much as I hate to say it, much as it pains me. I like this Hawks team. I think they're just super deep too on the wings. Like you can just run like your sixth or seventh wing. You still have like Solomon Hill. You can run and defend someone. He can make one of the 3 threes out there. I think you also Timothy Luwawu Cabarro. Is he on the roster? To your eighth wing or something like that. This is a really nice depth to have. Yeah. Obviously Herter's really talented. I see him popping up on some 6th man of the year predictions. That'd be a pretty cool thing to have. I don't know how he's going to beat out Derrick Rose. Maybe Kemba gets hurt, but that's another story. I like what the Hawks are doing. I mean, I think you want to run back this core for another year, sort of get a full year with the proper head coach and see what you can do. I like how you've one-upped my crazy Knicks 3 seed hot take with an even hotter 1 seed for the Hawks. That's aggressive so long as Brooklyn and Milwaukee exist. But I love the attitude. I mean, there's nothing really to complain about. I think if you're an Atlanta fan, obviously there's some roster decisions you have to make, but just the way they're going about it can be pretty easily deciphered. I think you already sort of know Herter's the best of the sort of young wing bunch. Hunter, the health questions, but you can also rely on Hunter a little more defensively than Reddish, I would think.
Cam Reddish might be Cam Reddish is his defensive upside and what he's already flashed this preseason, and even in that Buck series, Reddish is. He can defend all 5 positions. I don't think Hunter has that same upside. Hunter's a good defender, but I think Reddish, I would say Reddish is a better on-ball point of attack defender.
Interesting.
That's his best calling card is Reddish can do, he can defend 1 through 5 effectively. Hunter can defend any wing and probably some guards, but Reddish is at a point where he can do it all.
Do you want an all-star team? Well, you need an all-star hiring partner. You need Indeed. Get started right now with a $75 sponsored job credit to upgrade your job post at Indeed.com/Blue Wire. Indeed is a hiring partner that gets you what you really want, a short list of quality candidates as fast as possible. Indeed is an unbelievably powerful hiring partner where you can attract, interview, and hire all in one place. Get a $75 credit at Indeed.com/Blue Wire. Don't struggle on your own to find quality candidates. Indeed got you. Don't even worry about it. They can help you hire the right people right now. Indeed partners with you every step of the hiring process so you can find talent with the skills you need through tools like Indeed Instant Match, assessments, and virtual interviews. Indeed.com/Blue Wire. Offer valid through December 31st. Terms and conditions apply.
The Amazon Music Tom and Hawk Football Show is not your ordinary football podcast.
Can you find another podcast hosted by two longtime NFL vets, former teammates, and best friends? Nope, you can't, because this is the only one.
He's Joe Thomas, the only NFL offensive lineman to be selected to 10 consecutive Pro Bowls ever. Damn.
And he's Andrew Hawkins, a 7-year NFL veteran, wide receiver, and NFL analyst, and my teammate for 3 years on the Cleveland Browns.
We're going to bring you an insider's perspective on today's NFL that you're not going to get anywhere else.
Listen in every Wednesday as we break down the latest in the league.
We'll welcome in guests, play some games, and make weekly picks as we weave through the NFL slate.
And on Mondays, listen exclusively on Amazon Music for our Insider Minicast, where we'll break down our 5 favorite stories from the weekend in just 10 minutes.
You know the drill. Listen and follow the Tom and Hawk Football Show on Amazon Music or wherever you get your podcasts.
No, so you get a lot of options.
We do have a lot of options. I just want Cam to pop. That's what I want. I need Cam to pop. I need my Paul George. That's what I need. I need Cam to be that guy. I need him to get the opportunity with the ones, which it looks like he's going to do out of the gate. That's what I want to see. I want to see Cam play only with good basketball players in the rotation. Like, I want to see him have to play with Bogey, Trey, Collins, and Capella. That's what I want to see. How does
Even
he
the
fit?
bench unit's good NBA players, so that works out for him as well.
That does, because that didn't used to be the case either. That did not used to be the case.
Yeah.
So I think that's important. Between RJ, Randall... No, I'm not even going to throw Randall in there. Let's say RJ, Obi, and Quickly. Who of those 3 has the best season in New York?
Probably RJ.
Interesting. Okay.
There. I mean... Yeah, Obi's still. Yeah,
where are Knicks fans at with Obi?
We're a little more optimistic after summer league and after preseason, especially after that playoff series against you guys. That was like the best basketball he played all year. He brings something to this Knicks team that they need, just a little more dynamic athleticism, a little more vertical spacing, a little more running. He gets out there in the open floor, so that's nice. He's just nice to have the backup for to Randall. I think we're just hoping that, last season it was sort of whenever Randall went to the bench, it was just cringe and like, oh God, how do we survive these minutes? But now Toppin actually looks like maybe a reliable bench piece at the 4. Maybe Randall doesn't have to play 36 minutes. Maybe he can play like 32 a game. Like, that would be nice. And I think we can expect that. He looked a lot better in preseason, so we'll see. Especially defensively, I thought he made some nice plays. Quickly looking a lot more like a point guard, which is cool. Like, a lot of this playmaking stuff he's done in preseason in Vegas, I just didn't see it last year. And less reliant on the floater, has more of the mid-range pull-up stuff. He's also coming along, but I just think neither of them sort of stack up to RJ and sort of what he can be. Talk about just a starting multifaceted wing. He's going to be the lead perimeter defender for the Knicks this year. Maybe, fans of other teams might hear that and be like, ooh, I don't know about that, but he's flashed a lot on that end, and he's had some good moments last year against guys like, Jimmy Butler and Kawhi. He's got a lot of size and strength maybe more strength than size for his position. So it'll be fun to see that. He did well chasing around Beal in a couple of games this preseason. And the three-point shot looks legit. He's made half of them this preseason, carrying it over from last year. Obviously, some of the more creative ball handling, pick and roll, creation stuff, all that, we need to see a little more of that from him. But if he's going to come in and lock guys up, hit his threes, I think it's a fun guy to have. And I think he's going to do those things this year.
Okay. What's the opening lineup for the Knicks tomorrow?
Walker, Fournier, Barrett, Randall, center position. So Noel's been out all preseason resting, sore knee or something. Mitch Robinson just came back this last preseason game, so I don't know if they'll keep him off the bench to sort of work him in. But maybe Taj Gibson. I mean, old man Taj, he's going to be 48 years old in this league as a backup center, getting minutes because someone's hurt, and still just popping his little mid-range shots. He's got a three-point shot in his arsenal now, and just being in the right position defensively and just being so big and annoying that it won't be that easy to score on him.
Well, I think it just depends on how long Tom Thibodeau coaches in the league.
He can play, man. Taj Gibson can still play.
He's not bad. He's like one of those just plus minus guys that you're just always going to look at and you're like, he's +3 today, and I don't understand why. He was also a pain in the ass in the Hawks series. Like, did not enjoy Taj Gibson. I enjoyed, like, what was your favorite Julius Randle shot from that series?
That's let's go back to talking about Taj. The one thing about him in this Knicks center rotation is between Mitch and Noel, these are two guys offensively that are dive and dunk guys, lob guys, right? They're not really going to do much.
Right.
They can't really play make out of the short roll super well, right? But Taj Gibson, offensively, he has the range. He passes really well out of the short roll. So there's an argument to be made. Maybe he should be the backup center. You start one of Mitch or Noel, but Taj gets some serious minutes at center just because he brings a different look. We might see some Obi at center this year. The Knicks closed their last preseason game with a Randall-Obi front court.
How did that go?
They did well defensively. It went well. They came back against, the Wizards' second stringers, but we'll see how it fares in the regular season. But it looked a lot more sustainable defensively than last season, mostly because of the improvements Toppin's made.
Can I give you some breaking news on this podcast?
Is it the Ben Simmons news?
Yes.
Excellent. Yeah, I was hoping we would talk about this.
Excellent content. Oh no. So this comes from friend of the pod, Kyle Neubeck. He said, Embiid says he has not talked with Simmons since he returned. Quote, "At the end of the day, our job is not to babysit somebody." Incredible.
This is why neither of us have Philly ahead of our teams in our projected standings in the East. Like, this situation, there's no way this is going to end smoothly, and I don't understand how you don't just. I understand Daryl Morey is Daryl Morey. Just trade the guy. Get your couple picks. Get Colin Sexton. Just trade the guy.
It's unbelievable how bad this has gotten. But what stinks though too, and this is something that I don't know how you legislate out of it, where it's like Jimmy was doing similar stuff in Minnesota to your guy Tibbs and what was going on there. And then he gets to Miami and it's a totally different player and he takes him to the NBA Finals. And it's like, he's worth it. He's worth the headache and he can turn it off and on whenever he wants. Like Jimmy, if he's not happy, he's like, I'm going scorched earth here. But if I'm happy, everything's great. I'm making coffee. I'm doing the coffee buddy stuff with Goran Dragic. I think Simmons is going to do the same kind of thing. Is like, this is just horrible. Like Harden did it in Houston to get out of there. And then he's just like the great teammate in Brooklyn. And he's fine. He's all locked in. And I think guys know that there's no repercussions really, that like guys around the league probably don't even really care about this, you just move on. And once you get your way, then it's like, all right, camaraderie, teamwork, love it. I'm going to do everything. I think that's what's going to happen here. And that's what stinks is like, I don't know how cynical of a perspective this is to have, but like, that is something I just think about with him is that he's like, this is all awful. And this is all pretty crappy, especially to this organization and his teammates. But like, he overplayed his hand so bad. The Sixers overplayed their hand. There's blame on both sides, but like, man, this is ugly. Are
you seeing some of these other quotes that are coming? Should I just read them off? I have my little
just read them off.
Breakers columns.
Yeah.
Okay. Doc Rivers. I thought he was a distraction today. I didn't think he wanted to do what everyone else was doing. Woj says he was tossed early in practice, essentially for a refusal to participate in the next stage of the session. Oh man, this is fantastic. This is that NBA drama, man. NBA is like the best reality show sports league. It's just fantastic.
The Sixers are getting nothing for him.
Too. I'm sure you saw that.
Wait, say it again.
He's also suspended for a game.
Yeah,
you saw that.
I think he's played his last game as a Sixer. There's no way they're putting him on the court.
How?
This is too bad.
This is nuts.
Like, they're phasing him out. Can we see a phase out situation where they just don't pass him the ball and they just don't involve him in any action or anything with that? Like, just, hey, well, I mean, I guess that wouldn't be any different than him just sitting in the dunker spot anyway.
Yeah. I was going to say, their offensive rating increases by 10 points per 100 possessions. Or
what are they going to get for him? Like, I love the Daryl Morey perspective of just being like, No, he'll come back. He'll force him back. The money stuff, that's all real. And then he'll play really well, be a all-NBA defender, and then we'll wait for Beal or Lillard for him. You're getting nothing for him now. Like, you're getting nothing. And I agree, like, before last season, like, that would have been a fair trade. And I also would love to see Simmons in Portland and just running it, like, a team with no high expectations and just have fun there. Like, I would love to see him over there. And I would also love to see Dame and Embiid. That would be incredible. I would love to see Dame and Embiid play together. I would love to see Damian Lillard on a real contender. All that being said, that's not happening. And I don't even know, like, the package that they ultimately get for Ben Simmons is just going to be catastrophic for their title window, because you've only got a couple years with Embiid. There's no one else unless Tyrese Maxey becomes just a superstar in the next year or two. I don't see how they salvage this. This ends really badly for Philly. Unfortunately, sorry, Philly fans. You're great, but this is not going to end well.
Yeah, I wonder what the package would have been, immediately post trade request versus now. How much that differs.
Like, they're going to be lucky to get Buddy Hield back.
A couple. You know what? Buddy Hield, Barnes, one of the Kings' young guy. I don't know. They probably can't pry Halliburton away. So
no.
Yeah, it's honestly, you might just want to take Hield, Barnes, and try to pry some picks out of them and call it a day.
That's what I think's going to happen. I would do that too for him. I'm in spite mode at this point. You're going to Sacramento. Like, you're going to Sacramento. No questions asked. You're out of here. Like, we're sending you to Sacramento.
How do we get back at this guy? Send him to Sacramento.
Mm-hmm. I mean, I don't think there's a worse spot for him, right? Like, to just go and twiddle away in obscurity. I don't know. There's nowhere else that really jumps out to me. I guess maybe the Raptors could be a sneaky team that get in on this. Like, I don't know.
I think that works.
Mm-hmm.
I think the Raptors might actually be a nice fit for him. I hope he doesn't end up in OKC, just because OKC is just a fun young group.
Wait, let me stop you right there. They're not a fun young group. There's no fun happening in Oklahoma City. Let's go ahead and nip that in the bud. There's no fun.
A lot of fun.
No, who outside of SGA? Who's fun?
Lou Dort.
Not fun.
Who I'm going to mention later in this pod.
Not fun.
Extremely fun.
How is he fun?
You're going to have to tune into some OKC League Pass games.
No, look, I like him. I like him as a player. He's good. He fulfills his role extremely well. Darius Bazley, not fun. Do you know who else is not fun? Derek Favors, Mike Muscala, Ty Jerome, Isaiah Roby.
Ty Jerome is the next Joe Harris.
Oh, God. Trey Mann could be fun. He was a great college player.
Josh Giddey isn't fun?
No, Josh Giddey is not fun.
Josh Giddey isn't fun?
Are you a big Poku guy?
Pokuševski?
Oh, my God.
I mean, it's fun. He's fun. You can't not have fun watching Poku on the floor. It's like, what is going on here? It's like a 2K creative player by someone on LSD. And it's the best thing.
I'm just, I don't know. I'm very anti Oklahoma City Thunder. Anti what they're doing. Anti this experiment. Anti just everything about them. It's just not a real organization. Can't do it.
More fired up defending the Thunder than the Knicks this podcast.
You really are. Is it the color scheme? You're just like blue and orange. You just, when someone goes after a blue and orange team, you just see red.
Everyone but the Mets. Yeah.
Everyone but the Mets. But you were a noted Mets attender. You attended. People don't know this, but you on your Instagram, you were all about the Mets early in the season when they were in first in the NL East, and you were taking shots of just being around Citi Field and just the vibe, the happiness in Queens. And then as the Knicks fell, you went back to your Yankees. It was a lot of suspect stuff on your feed.
Listen, I'm for the Citi Field is I'm sorry, a superior baseball watching experience that someone who likes to eat food and drink beer and just enjoy walking around a stadium. And the tickets are much cheaper and it's much closer to where I live. Nothing to do with the baseball on field. You know, the games mattered. I got to go back to my Yankees and get disappointed. But
we got Aaron Boone back, so that's good.
Is it?
No, probably not. Also, I don't know. Managers, like, it's a weird thing to get mad about a manager, I think, in baseball. I'm not sure how much they really matter. Like, I really don't know how much managers really matter for a team. wins and losses wise. I don't know. But then you look at Alex Cora and the Red Sox flip. So I don't know. Could be wrong. I could be wrong. Make the case, Verts, for the New York Knicks being a top 3 seed in the East this year. Make the case, because I have them right now at 9. They're in the play-in for me. I have them as a 9 seed.
My gosh. So I wrote a 1,300.
Did that really hurt you? Like that felt like I just stabbed you with my words.
Ugh, ninth is rough, man. Ninth is rough.
You're around where the Bulls are.
And then Charlotte ahead of us.
No, so you're like right in the Bulls territory for me. So I have ahead of you, just for the interest, and I'm sorry, Knicks fans, in the interest of full disclosure, this is what I'm saying. I think the East is deep. This is a deeper East than we've seen in a long time. I think you have the Hawks penciled in ahead of them, the Celtics, I have the Pacers, unfortunately, sorry to say, the Heat, the Bucks, the Nets. But here's the caveat. I might move them up because the Sixers are just, what do I do with the Sixers? Like, I have them above you guys, but like, I don't know. Like, that can go haywire rather quickly. You're in that zone with Chicago. Like, Chicago, Charlotte, and you guys are like in the Pacers are in the same kind of zone for me. People are talking themselves into the Cavs, but I'll believe when I see it. And I'm pretty dubious of the Raptors' offense. Like, I still think they're not going to be able to score enough. I'm concerned about the Raps, so we'll see. But I don't know. I don't think I'm being overly harsh putting you in that group.
So I'll boil my manifesto down a little bit, because I went deep on this topic. It is an optimistic case, like more so than the realistic case. But here's my thinking. So we relatively know what this team is. It's a Thibs team. It's going to defend the heck out of the ball. Randall's really good. I think he's still an all-NBA talent. Like, sorry, a 27-year-old coming off a breakout season, in any other situation, you think, oh, he's going to be about the same or like a little better, like he's going to get better. He's entering his prime. RJ Barrett coming off a breakout season, 21 years old, entering his 3rd season. Any other situation, he's going to get better. He's probably take another leap. He's a really good player, really good work ethic, yada, yada. And, the Knicks over the offseason sacrificed a little defense, getting rid of Bullock and Payton, and brought in Walker and Fournier, 2 guys that can do a lot offensively that the Knicks just couldn't do last season. It was a lot of, Randall mid-range, do what you can, create for all of us. But now they've got so many weapons, a lot of their actions are just going to be a lot more spaced out. There's going to be a lot more random cuts, a lot of smarter players, and just more offensive flexibility. So I think the defense won't fall off to below like a top. They'll still be a top 10 defense. I think the offense has the potential to be, top 15 in the league, maybe even higher, depending on how Kemba and Fournier look. I think you mentioned the Hawks depth. I think the Knicks have probably a top 5 bench in the league. Between Burks is a starting caliber player, Rose is a starting caliber player, Quickly, Toppin are really good. Noel is starting caliber. Those things, avoiding injury during the regular season is big. I think a Thibs team in the regular season, just playing that Thibs level defense and 110% effort on those Tuesday nights, the 5th game of a 6-game trip, 8-day trip, whatever. I think that wins them some games. So fundamentally, they were a 41-31 team last year, the 3rd seed. I think they got better, and I'm just not impressed by the rest of the East. The Hawks are the one team I did not have a good answer for. I was like, the Hawks are probably the 3rd seed. Like, they're really good. I didn't have much to say about them. I want to see how their defense holds up over a whole regular season, because that playoff defense was just at a different level than what they were in the regular season. But the rest of the competition, like, I'm not worried about the Bulls. I'm not worried about the Pacers. I'm not worried about it. The Heat are a disgusting playoff team, but I think in the regular season, it's going to be a sort of Miami regular season where they sneak in and do their damage once the postseason starts, just because they're a little older, a little, not so deep in the roster department beyond like, 6th or 7th man. And I think injuries usually play a role with them as well. I'm just not interested. Not super scared by these other East teams. I guess they got deeper, so, more of the running over the East isn't that easy. But I don't know. I see this scenario. I see the path for the Knicks to be the 3 seed.
Okay. I have some more Ben Simmons and Beat stuff for you. You ready?
Oh, let's go.
Quote, at this point, it's amazing. At this point, I don't care about that man. Honestly, he does whatever he wants. Joel Embiid on Ben Simmons. Would you like to know what happened that forced Doc Rivers to kick Ben Simmons out of practice today?
More than anything in the world.
This coming from Shams. Sources. Doc Rivers asked Ben Simmons to join a defensive drill today. Simmons refused. Rivers asked again. Simmons said no again. Rivers then told Simmons he should go home, and Simmons dropped the ball and left.
This is like some junior college level stuff going on. This is like this is ridiculous, man. Oh my goodness. Just trade him. It's just like it's the same thing with the Aiden extension. Like I just feel like these teams just are giving themselves too much to straight. Just do the easy thing. Just go.
I mean, the NBA is off to an amazing start.
Run a team.
This is just tremendous content. Just tremendous content.
I want to give this person the credit. I got to scroll down and find it. But someone said, I can't wait for the first Embiid-Simmons matchup when Simmons is on another team.
Oof. I don't know. We'll see. Do you? This thing keeps popping up. I saw this from Silver. Do you like the midseason tournament, like the European style midseason tournament? Because I don't think you're like. I remember the cash prize, and people looked at the bubble and like, oh, we can do something a mini tournament like that. It's like, I don't think you're ever going to get buy-in like that. I don't think you're ever going to get players to risk it, no matter how much money you're throwing out there, to go super hard in the middle of a season. And I don't know why teams would want their guys out there going for it when they have title aspirations. I don't understand why this keeps popping up. I understand like trying to increase interest during that lull in that time of the NBA calendar, but for me, I don't understand it why any player or really any executive would want this. What about you?
Is that the idea to sort of help with that lull? Because I'm assuming it would be like around All-Star weekend. I think people mostly just turn off the NBA around like March, April when the seeding's mostly done, and you got a lot of load management going on. I don't see. I don't see the vision. I mean, if it's just for a cash pool and just to drum up, maybe if they want to do some sort of All-Star event instead of the current All-Star weekend format, but I don't think anyone's even asking for that. I don't see the logic. I would need this explained to me. Maybe I have to listen to the Silver Presser, or maybe I have to read more about it. I don't know. I don't know what's going on here. It doesn't excite me. It would need to mean something.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe the play-in tournament makes sense, right? It's
yes.
Play-in to make the playoffs. Seeding, like that's great and it works great. Like why not just be satisfied with that every little mini tournament? I'm not sure. I
would do like a G League tournament or something. If you want to incorporate the G League and give them a bigger pedestal during that time period, that would be something. I don't know. It doesn't make sense to me. Like you said. Last thing, and we'll wrap up here, Verts. Give me the team you think gets off to the hottest start out of the gates this season, and who gets off to the coldest start.
I was actually looking at that opening night matchup between the Warriors and Lakers, and I'm really big on the continuity stuff. Like when John Schumann, NBA.com, like puts out his continuity rankings, I always find that stuff really interesting because I think the teams that come back with a lot of chemistry built up from prior years and most of the same roster and minutes, I like to believe in those a lot. I have the Lakers getting off to a cold start. I think generally they are like one of the top teams in the league, but that's not really going to come together until maybe a month in. Every time LeBron gets a new superstar team, it's always like a 500 start and everyone freaks out. And I'm like, just wait. They'll figure it out. Happened with Wade. Happened with the new, I think the second version of Cleveland with Kyrie and Love. I think it just happens when stars need to sort of learn how to play together. And, Westbrook is a tough start to fold into existing structure. So I can see them getting off to a bit of a cool start. And I have the Warriors getting off to a hot start, while everyone's, except for Clay, relatively healthy. And I'm just a big Steph Curry guy. And I think he's been pretty hot for the past year into this preseason too. I can see them, building off what they had last year and getting off to a good start.
I like this.
Their schedule is also the schedule is after the Lakers and Clippers. It's like Kings, Thunder, Grizzlies, Thunder, Hornets, Pelicans, Rockets. It's not super tough.
I like it. I'm going to say the worst start, the coldest start that just results in some job firings is New Orleans. I think New Orleans is awful out of the gates. Zion might not play until like January. And this roster sucks. It's worse than it was a year ago. So give me the Pels as the team with the coldest, roughest start. I think a hot start team, as someone like just to kind of go out of the ordinary, I'm going to say Minnesota starts off hot. I think with their group and the Finch up factor from last year, I could see a healthy Towns, a motivated Towns, Anthony Edwards, who I like a lot, Pat Bev, I think will immediately pay dividends for them. I could see the Timberwolves starting off pretty well, and we're like, oh, Timberwolves are going to be a play-in team. I could see that being the start here because they got. Would you like to guess who they've got tomorrow?
I don't.
They got the Rockets tomorrow. They got the Pels on Saturday, and they get the Pels again on Monday. They could start off 3-0. Like, I think you look at this, then you have to go to Minnesota. You get the Nuggets at home, but then you get the Magic. You get the Clippers twice. You get the Grizz. Like, there's opportunities for them to start out and be over 500 heading into December. I don't know. I think there's a reason for me. Mm-hmm.
I love the annual, like, first week, some random team is 3-0, and everyone gets excited. Everyone writes the piece of, like, oh, man, is this OKC's year? I don't know. They're playing super
well, it's going to be Minnesota
good.
this year.
I buy it. I buy it. I mean, they're going to be fun. I'm a big Anthony Edwards guy, and they'll score at the very least.
I think so. Verts, what can we check out from you at SMY or anywhere else this week?
More Knicks and Nets content coming. I've really exhausted the ammunition on all the preseason sort of hype articles and projections and predictions, and I wrote about these two teams just a ton. So if you guys want to learn up on them entering the season, you can do that. And once the season sort of starts, we'll see what else we can analyze. We'll see what we can dig into. I'm looking at Kemba Walker's defense early in the year for the Knicks, and as always, the Nets are going to be really good, but they have their own situation to figure out as well.
There you go. David Vertsberger, always a pleasure. I'll talk to you soon.
Thanks for having me on, man. Great time.
All right, what day is it? Oh my goodness, it's late. I was about to say what day it is of this podcast. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter.
It would be Wednesday for you.
It is Wednesday for me now. What a day. I started recording pods on Tuesday for this particular episode, but it's Wednesday now, and I am joined, that voice you just heard, by Felix Sicard, longtime friend of the pod. Felix, good evening, sir. How are you?
Hey, thanks for having me. I appreciate you braving the late hours. You're basically time traveling at this point with all the podcasts you're recording in one day. So yeah, I respect the hustle.
I mean, I definitely hustle. I like to do this, but it's also just fun. I like doing it. So it doesn't feel like work to me. It's not like I'm logging on to a job I don't like at like 12:15. I'm like, oh yeah, I'm here. No, it's not how it feels. So I'm excited to talk to you, man. It's been a long time, but we have a reason to talk hockey again because hockey is back. Felix. Okay, where do we start? You know what I think we start with? The TikTok helmet decals in Toronto. How excited are you about that? Is this what really fixes the Maple Leafs in your opinion?
Yeah, I mean, if you look at their helmet decals last year, I think it was a bank. I think it was like CIBC. So it was like a Canadian bank. So I think that going the Gen Z route might be what's going to fix what's been ailing them the last few years, particularly in the playoffs. Yeah, I think it's the logical move.
True or false? Through 4 games, your team, the Montreal Canadiens, are the worst team in hockey.
Yeah, absolutely true. Like I don't know what's truer than true, but that would be it. Like, they are absolutely terrible. It's so hard to watch them play. But you know what? It works out because I think this will finally get everyone fired and it'll get them a top pick. So it works for Team Chaos, but it is absolutely true that they're terrible.
I mean, the point differential thus far is pretty bonkers. Like, they're minus 12. We're 4 games in. 15 goals given up and 3 goals scored. That's insane.
Yeah. I mean, they can't score, which is a bit of a problem. And they also are missing Carey Price, which is also a bit of a problem. They lost so many good players over the offseason, they didn't replace them. I think that they think that they replaced them. They went out and got Christian Dvorak to be their second line center. I don't really think that's what he is, but even if he were that, they're not really utilizing him. Like, they're not getting the most out of him. They should be playing him with Brendan Gallagher. So yeah, they're just, it sucks because they were such a great story last season, going to the Stanley Cup final, all this positive momentum. And then of course the offseason hits, the controversial draft pick that they made, losing key players, and now this start. It just feels like it's been literally all downhill since they made the Cup final.
It's brutal. I'm not gonna lie to you. It's just brutal.
Yeah.
Through 4 games, should we be worried about the Lightning's defense?
No.
Okay.
No, I don't worry about the Lightning until the end of the season. If they're out of the running for the playoffs or something to that effect, then sure, you can go ahead and worry. Mm-hmm. But I mean, if you look at like the numbers, they're not awful defensively. They're just kind of middle of the pack. And even if you look at their blue line last year in the playoffs, they were still bringing out guys like Jan Ruda in big minutes. Like, they've always kind of had a weird, funky defense. So yeah, I'm not worried about them. They're going to be just fine. They have Corey Perry on the team now, which in theory should mean that they're a lock to make the Stanley Cup final, given that the last 2 teams he's been on have been to the final. The kind of subplot of the season that I really want to see happen is for the Ducks to flip Getzlaf to the Lightning at the deadline to reunite Getzlaf and Perry in Tampa Bay, and then they go on to win a cup. That'd be pretty fun.
Some men just want to watch the world burn. More likely, the Atlantic Division that you're quite familiar with. It's weird right now. The Lightning, the Bruins on the bottom end. Of the top 3 right now, the Sabres, the Wings, and the Panthers, who do you think is most likely to still be in the top half of this division by the midway point? Who do you expect of those 3?
As much as I would love to see the great story of the Buffalo Sabres continue, they haven't exactly played anyone of note quite yet. They've played, as we just discussed, my hapless Montreal Canadiens, and then they played the Canucks, they played the Coyotes, who are at this point like barely an NHL team. So
barely have an NHL arena.
Yeah, exactly. Like they're basically just a fraud of a franchise. So, I don't really have any faith that will continue. Would be cool if it did. Detroit, same story there. Panthers, though, for sure. I mean, I had the Panthers to win the division, so for the sake of consistency, I have to pick them here.
Okay, I don't hate that. Is this a year, or like a lot of people are wondering what Jack Hughes is going to do this year? What do you guess Jack Hughes does? Do you think this is a breakout year for him in New Jersey?
Yeah, 100%. I mean, I think last year we saw a little bit of an uptick from even where he was prior to that, and I think he's just continued to build on his game every year. And obviously, to start the season, the big overtime goal, tossing the stick into the stands. I mean, the guy is just like entertainment gold for the NHL. I mean, he got hurt tonight though, playing against Seattle, which is a bit unfortunate. We'll see where that goes. He's listed as day-to-day right now, but I have a lot of faith that he's going to take that next step forward. I remember at the draft, people were saying, is it going to be Kakko or Hughes? People weren't too sure about the track record for Hughes, how he just piled up a lot of points on a really great U.S. national development team, but he's the real deal. And the sooner he gets there, the sooner New Jersey is going to actually make the playoffs at some point.
I'm curious what happens there. I'm not sure. Not a lot of faith in New Jersey and what they've been doing over the last few years. So I don't know. But then again, his brother's also in a bad situation over there in Vancouver. I don't know. They keep spinning their wheels as well. I was about to say the Canucks. I was just thinking about the Canucks. The Kraken coming into the year, preseason, based on everything they got for their inaugural season. What were your expectations? They lost 3 straight, But what do you think the Kraken? What do you think their year one is going to end up looking like?
Well, before the season, I had them. I think I had them in the playoffs in the Pacific Division, but that may have been. Or actually, no, I had them fourth in the Pacific, and that feels. That's exactly where they are right now, and I think that that's going to continue. They look really bad right now. I think that their personnel is just okay enough to where they'll kind of be able to hang around there. I think that there's going to be some movement in the Pacific, but it's such a wacky division with the teams that are in there that anything could really happen. But I think that I think they're a little better than this, but probably not by that much. Like they decided to be a really mediocre, boring roster this year for whatever reason. And I just think that's what they are.
That's fair. Golden Knights lose Max and Mark. We love Max and Mark on this podcast. Big Max and Mark fans. Who do you think is the bigger loss, and do you think the Vegas Golden Knights are in trouble early on?
Yeah, I mean they definitely are. Like, losing Mark Stone and Max Pacioretty is brutal. Mark Stone is the bigger loss. He's just a much more impactful player on both ends of the ice. Max Pacioretty is great as well, don't get me wrong, but Mark Stone he's a perennial Selke candidate for a reason. I will say this, though. I wonder if this is going to make the Golden Knights finally pull the trigger on a Jack Eichel trade. I mean, they have been in those, rumors all the way through, and you saw today in Elliot Friedman's 32 Thoughts that the hang up for them is they don't want to trade either of Peyton Krebs or Nick Hague, some of their top prospects. And it's like, hey, I have all the time in the world for both those guys as prospects, but neither of them are going to end up being Jack Eichel. And I'm sure that, I'm sure Jack Eichel will be fine after his surgery. And so, and they have that impatient owner over there in Vegas. So I think that maybe this will push them closer to actually just getting it done and bringing Jack Eichel to Vegas. I would personally not love to see that, just because it feels like every single time there's been a big player available via trade, Vegas is the one that gets him. It'd be kind of fun to see him go somewhere else, but I could see them being the one that finally gets it done.
Interesting. I want to get your perspective on this. So if you had to give if you had to guess which one ends up being the better deal long term. So we got an 8-year deal and a 7-year deal. You got McAvoy with Boston, 8-year, $76 million, or the Sens signing Brady. Okay, here we go. Here's my American. Here's how I can do this. Take a deep breath. To a 7-year, $57.5 million deal. Nailed it. Smooth landing. I nailed that, Felix. Which deal do you like more, and which one do you think looks better years from now?
I'm just happy you didn't ask me about Nick Suzuki. I'm glad I don't have to bash my own team even further.
No.
But I will say, I like both players. I think Brady Tkachuk's a fine player. I do have some concerns about just why his just strong 5-on-5 game hasn't really translated to actual, elite offensive production yet. Whereas Charlie McAvoy, he's already an elite defenseman. He's already one of the best defensemen in the NHL. They're going to get his very best years. And I don't think that there's just much left for him to improve on. If he just stays what he is now, that's going to be a great value for him and for the Bruins as they kind of reload for that next wave of their contending window. As for Brady Tkachuk, he could definitely grow into it. It's definitely a bet, and I think that this is just what you have to do in the modern NHL, though, is bet big on your younger players as they come out of their entry-level contracts and just hope that you end up being correct. But regardless, you are going to get their most productive years statistically, even if maybe they're not going to fulfill that promise all the way. You're still going to get the most value at that point. So I'm a little lower on Tkachuk, so I'm just going to have to go with McAvoy here.
I like it. Your strongest early season hot take is what, Felix?
Wow, that is an interesting question. Well, I follow the Ducks so closely that I feel like it's gonna have to be Ducks related. I mean, okay, my strongest take. This is super niche. I'm sorry to everyone who might not even know what I'm talking about. I think Mason McTavish, the Ducks' 18-year-old rookie who made the team, I think he's gonna last potentially. I think he's gonna last the whole season in Anaheim. There you go. There's my hot take.
Okay.
I think that the Ducks might want to send it. They might want to send him back to the World Juniors, but he got hurt in last night's game, or by the time you're listening, 2 nights ago against Calgary, and he missed part of the preseason with an ankle injury. And it just feels like they want to see more out of him because when he does play, he plays very well. And despite him being 18, I think he already has an NHL caliber. I mean, definitely has an NHL caliber frame. He plays an NHL style game, and I feel like they're just not going to be able to send him back. So maybe it's a bit of a niche deep cut, but it's what I'm rolling with.
I like it. All right, Felix. Well, what can we check out from you across the internet this week?
Yeah, so definitely check out the podcast that I do with my good buddy Jake Rudolph. It's called Crash the Pond. You can find us on Twitter at Crash the Pond. We do weekly breakdowns of everything that's going on with the Anaheim Ducks, so definitely check that out. And just follow me on Twitter at Felix_Sicard. I've got a lot of Ducks content coming out there, so just make sure to follow along as we see what these Ducks will do in what is publicly being stated as year 1 of the rebuild.
Well, the good thing is they haven't been rebuilding for years anyway. That this is Ducks fans have gotten nothing but fun stuff before this.
Yeah, it only counts. Yeah, it only counts as a rebuild now that they've said it is. So,
that's a frustrating thing that a lot of franchises do now. They get away with, and they're like this happens in sports. I mean, this even happens in college now, where it's like, oh, we had to strip the college to its bare bones. Got to get all new faces in, recruit from the bottom, the ground up. It's like, well, then what were you doing for the last 8 years? You can't just keep doing that and stripping it to the bones. And we're getting a year. Like, it's just words don't mean anything in sports, and they just say that, and you're like, no, you can't. No, that still counts. It's the rebuild that still counts. You can't do that. It was just a failed rebuild, so you're doing a rebuild on top of a rebuild.
You were still terrible. Yeah, exactly.
You didn't want to be in this position. Someone promised we would not be in this position in 2021. All right, man. Well, this is great. Thank you so much for making the time. I greatly appreciate it. We'll be checking back in a lot more as this NHL season gets going. Felix, you stay safe out there. Thanks so much.
Thanks a lot, man.
All right, we are back on the Chase Thomas podcast, where I am still the aforementioned Chase Thomas, and I'm joined by a local fellow Tennessean to talk about a crazy Titans-Bills game and a really weird Titan season thus far. Gentry Estes is here. Gentry, good afternoon, sir. How are you?
Hey, I'm good. Good to be with you.
Thanks for being here, man. So how do you explain last night? How do you explain what happened in that Titans-Bills game?
Well, it was a good game. A good game for Monday night. Honestly, it was a lot like a lot of Titans games where it goes down to the wire and comes down to 1 or 2 plays. Obviously a big win for them, and they stepped up and made plays at the end. I think you could say they were fortunate in some ways, but it's the NFL, and any team that wins a game like that usually is. So obviously a big win, and a win that I think could maybe change their season a little bit. The Titans really hadn't shown a lot in the first 5 weeks, so this was one that I think they can build on. A big win for them.
Did you have them about at 4-2 at this point in the season? Is this about what you expected from them coming in?
I don't know. I could say, I don't think I ever really looked at it. I did think they would beat the Bills, though. That was one going into that game. It just seems like, when you watch the Titans, they seem to play their best in big moments like that. They have kind of a history of that.
Why do you think that is?
Got the sense going into that they were going to, kind of step up and play their best. And, they usually will play up or down to the competition, and that's kind of been the case already this year.
Why do you think that is?
I have no idea. I mean, we've asked. I don't know. I think it's just the NFL and the games go that way, but The consistency has been an issue for them for a number of years now. And it's getting where, you go into a game like last night, at least I expected them to play their best. And, you're going against a team in Buffalo that's coming off a big win over Kansas City. They were due maybe a not-so-great performance. They had been lights out in Arrowhead. And, for the Titans, it was kind of a game to draw a line in the sand a little bit. I think if I think other people were looking at them at 3-2 and thinking they really weren't as good as that record would suggest. And, they hadn't played that great, but they dealt with a lot of injuries. And I don't think we really knew what to expect when they went against one of the better teams in the AFC. And they kind of showed they could play with them.
So how did they contain Josh Allen last night? What did you see that stood out to you?
I don't think they did contain Josh Allen last night. He threw for 300-something yards. And, the Bills outgained the Titans. They had more than 400 yards of offense. They scored 31 points. Really, the only time I think they contained the Bills was in the red zone. They were able to stop them and force field goals early in the game. And that was huge. That was. Because if the Bills had taken, 14-0 lead, it's an entirely different ballgame. They stopped him in the red zone early, give the defense credit for that. And they were able to get some pressure on Allen. He didn't run all over the place, and he also didn't. The Titans had 3 sacks. The Bills didn't have any, and that to me was probably one of the more surprising elements of this game, because the Titans, I would have expected, would give up more sacks the way things have gone this season. But I also think the Titans' pass rush has improved from last year to this year, and to get 3 sacks against a quarterback like that. And it's some pretty big moments, too. They were able to pressure him, get a tip pass, intercepted that led to a touchdown. Late in the game with the Bills up, 31-27 with the ball, they got a sack on first down, put them in a long down and distance, which led to a punt. These are things the defense was doing to affect the game that maybe they hadn't been doing in the past. But at the same time, Josh Allen still had a pretty good game. He threw 300 yards.
True, but he was stuffed at the goal line. Were you surprised by that stop and Titans defense hold strong there?
I'll be honest, man. I was so busy trying to write something on deadline at the end of the game that surprised. No, I wasn't surprised. Mm-hmm. They had stopped Jacksonville in a similar situation last week. The Titans just kind of have that about them. You've seen it for a couple of seasons now that they'll be that team that kind of makes that stop at the goal line. Maybe a little surprised the Bills didn't kick field goal.
Yeah.
And go to overtime. But, you got Josh Allen, and he's been really successful with those sneaks. So I understand why Buffalo felt like they were going to get it. And, I think he lost his footing. Allen lost his footing a little bit, but credit Jeffrey Simmons for getting back there and stopping him.
Absolutely. What did you make of that Julio catch? Pretty bonkers. And as an Atlanta Falcons fan and Atlanta native, I miss it. And seeing something like that happen last night, and his smile, it definitely made me smile. What did you make of that preposterous coordination to pull that in?
Yeah, that's Julio. I think it's more concerning for the Titans that he didn't finish the game. There were some key moments on the field, and they didn't have him out there. It's the same thing that happened a few weeks ago when they played the Indianapolis Colts. That's a concern. Whatever the hamstring issue is with Julio, he's not over it. And it was bad enough to where he wasn't on the field at the end of the game last night. So that remains a pretty big concern for the Titans.
And then you had the A.J. Brown flu game, so you got to get those receivers on the same page. You got to get them healthy.
Yeah, although A.J. had a good game, I think with what the one guy we haven't mentioned is Derrick Henry.
We're getting to Henry. Henry's the main event here.
Yeah, his success running the ball, I think, really did open. The success that Henry was having running the ball freed up the middle of the field. You could see the Bills linebackers progressively cheating up, which happens when they get Henry going like that. And it really opened up A.J. Brown in the middle of the field to have a big night. He ended up with 9 catches, and it was big for him. He hasn't had a lot of success so far this season. He talked to the previous game that he was falling short of his own expectations. And, he had a big game. Even getting over food poisoning, I think that was a big deal for AJ. And I think, Julio is helpful, and you're certainly better with him than without him. But I still think we're seeing that the Titans' best receiver is AJ Brown.
Are we getting a no Chipotle mandate from Vrabel?
Well, I tell you, it's not good for Chipotle. I think it was Chipotle should consider itself fortunate that AJ played well in that game because I don't know how well that particular chain was going to do in Nashville if all of a sudden he was sidelined against the Buffalo Bills on Monday Night Football because of a chicken burrito.
It's rough. Not the kind of PR you want. They say all PR is good PR, but I don't know about that. Derrick Henry, this comes to us from PFF, 19 rushes of 10-plus yards this season, which leads the NFL. That's more than 22 teams have total. Do you think he keeps this up the rest of the way? Henry is just different in all kinds of ways, but that number is just preposterous, and he breaks through. It doesn't make sense. He runs like Forrest Gump. Shout out to Andrew Hawkins, NFL vet, who tweeted that out today, like that side-by-side of the way Derrick Henry runs and Forrest Gump. It's 10 out of 10. 10 out of 10. I love it. Do you think this is sustainable over a 17-game season? Do we see a drop-off coming, or is just Henry a different kind of player altogether, and we just have to throw what we think we know about running backs out the window?
Yeah, I get this question a lot, and I wonder about that myself, and I'll just say this. I'd like to see him unable to do something before I'm going to say he's unable to do it.
Mm.
You don't expect that any football player would be able to be as fast as he is, as big as he is, as durable as he is, as dominant as he is, for as long as he's been dominant. It doesn't make sense. I'm not sure we've ever seen this from a football player. But every time you doubt what that guy can do, he just goes and does it. And I have seen nothing from Derrick over 2 years covering this team that suggests he's about to take a step back in any way. And, and you hear the doubt that no one could do what he's doing. Well, maybe this guy can.
The new coordinators, have they settled in? Are you good with where both of them have progressed? Do you think the coordinators are going to be just fine now going forward?
I think that you can't lump them together. I think it's two totally different situations. I think with Todd Downing, I think he's had a good run on the offense the last couple of games. But I also think going into this season that the expectations were a lot higher for Todd Downing than they were for Shane Bowen. I think if the defense just improved slightly, that was going to be better than what they were a year ago. So I think it was a lot easier for Shane Bowen to kind of please everybody because the expectations were a lot lower on his side of the ball, whereas I think you looked at the Titans offense and saw all these weapons and said, my gosh, they had one of the best offenses in the league last year, and they may be even better. I don't think they've been better, but I think they've also dealt with a ton of injuries so far. I think the fact that the New York Jets knew that A.J. Brown and Julio Jones were not going to be on the field against them, I think won them that game. They put together a defense that spread 9, 10, 11 guys across the line of scrimmage, just absolutely daring the Titans to try to throw downfield on them against man coverage. Titans couldn't do it, couldn't get separation enough to do it, and the Jets knew that going into that game. I think so. The injuries, it sounds like an excuse, but they matter. And I think we're still to a point where we haven't seen that offense at full force is what it can do. Defense, they're a little better. You've got some injuries on that side of the ball too, but I still think there's a ways to go defensively. I mean, they clearly, a lot of people today are kind of sitting here saying how well the defense played, and they gave up 31 points. Had the Bills scored at the end and won 38-34, I don't think people would have been talking about how good the defense is doing. That's the difference of just a few yards.
Has the offensive line figured it out? They're grading well across the board now. Obviously, the Taylor Lewan stuff is a very different thing altogether with the help there. But do you think the offensive line has gelled and really figured out the best five?
I don't think there was a question of the best. They've had the same people, and I don't think it's a matter of gelling. It's kind of the same group. They just haven't been playing very well. I think they've had injuries on that area of the team too. All through the preseason, you had a bunch of those guys up front in this time, and they were still kind of getting back to full speed. The ones was in and out of the lineup for a little bit, and was hurt again last night. And I thought Kendall Lamb came in and played pretty well at left tackle for him. But the rest of the group, it's the same group. They're keeping the same 5 guys. It's just, they just weren't playing very well to start with. I think we all kind of knew the upside there, but you still got an offensive line that has had their quarterback get hit way too many times. They've allowed too much pressure, too many sacks. The trade-off on that is you have one of the best running backs in the NFL, if not the best running back in the NFL, and he does a lot of damage behind that line. So I don't know if they've been terrible, but they need to do a better job checking the quarterback, and they did last night. Tannehill was not sacked last night. That's a huge step for that line.
Absolutely. What can we look forward to this week with the Titans? What are you most curious about as the days go on ahead of the next game?
They play the Chiefs this week, so that's another tough game.
Good history, though.
Yeah, I think this is, these 2 weeks, you get the Bills and the Chiefs back-to-back. That's tough. And I think that, the Chiefs are much like the Bills. They're going to really test that defense. I think the Chiefs are built to test them maybe even more than the Bills did. And I think, they're banged up in the secondary. Caleb Farley out for the year now with an injury. Kristen Fulton's on IR. They're running out of cornerbacks, and it's a bad week to be running out of cornerbacks when you're about to play the Chiefs and Patrick Mahomes. So I don't like that in terms of the matchup. But again, I think this is a marquee opponent in a big-time game, and I think the Titans will show up. They have the team to kind of do that. And the Chiefs, I think, also have been struggling a good bit defensively from where they've been the last couple of years, and I think it's a good opportunity for the Titans offense to continue to get some momentum, and maybe another week where we see some gaudy Derrick Henry stats. I think you almost go into every game expecting that now.
There you go. What can we check out from you at the Tennessean this week?
Well, I don't know. We'll see. I don't want to give it away.
I don't think I've ever gotten that answer. I don't think I've ever gotten
here's
that.
The thing. I don't just cover the Titans, right?
Yeah.
I'm going to go to the Preds game tonight. I'm going to go to the National SC soccer game Wednesday. So maybe I write. I don't know.
Oh, I like it. Well, Gentry, thank you so much for the time. We can follow you on Twitter at Gentry_Estes. We can read your work at The Tennessean, so go subscribe there if you've not already done so. Thanks so much for making the time. I greatly appreciate it.
Yep, you bet. Take care.
Nicely done, nephew. Chase Thomas Podcast. Hell yeah.
Bet with your friends on WynnBET Sportsbook today using promo code BlueWire to get up to $1,000 toward a risk-free sports bet. Sign up now at WYNNBet.com. Offer subject to change, terms and conditions at WynnBET.com. Must be 21 or older and present in the state where playthrough WynnBET is available. If you or someone you know has a gambling problem, call 1-800-522-4700.